everyone, this is Miss Brooks yet again. Today is April 2nd of 2020. This is a Thursday. This is Thursday's video. So, I just want to remind everyone that next week is spring break, and everyone should take that week as kind of a relaxation week. Don't worry about classwork. Don't worry about anything else. It's all relaxation. We're going to try and have some fun because quarantine is not fun. So we're going to try and get through this together. If really you guys still do have questions over spring break, I can't answer them, but I won't be able to answer them as quickly as I usually do. So I just want to throw that out there. Also in today's videos, today in this video for reading, this is the 10th reading video. We're going to be reading chapter 13, which chapter 13 is a longer chapter. But then there's chapter 14, which isn't as long. So if you notice, the pattern is 2 chapters, 2 chapters, 2 chapters. Like every 2 chapters, the point of view changes. So keep that in mind as you're reading each chapter, and make sure you're looking at the side on which character is speaking. So we're going to go ahead and start with chapter 13, which is I Faced the Killer Turkey. So a lot of us are probably like, what in the world? So we're going to read chapter 13. Chapter 14 audio will be in the description. So we are back into Carter's point of view. So again, I just want to get to the point, and I'm pretty sure you guys just want to get to the reading portion too. So let's go ahead and get started. My turn. First of all, Sadie's puppy dog comment was totally out of line. I was not starry-eyed about Zia. It's just that I don't meet a lot of people who can throw fireballs and battle gods. Stop making faces at me, Sadie. You look like Khufu. So if you remember, Khufu was the monkey. Anyway, we plunged into the sand tunnel. Everything went dark. My stomach tingled with that top of the roller coaster weightlessness as I hurtled forward. Hot winds whipped around me, and my skin burned. Then I tumbled out onto a cold tile floor, and Sadie and Zia crushed on top of me. Ow, I grumbled. The first thing I noticed was a fine layer of sand covering my body like powdered sugar. If you haven't seen powdered sugar, it's kind of like what they put on funnel cakes at like the fair or something. It's that white powdery sugar. Hence why it's called powdered sugar. Then my eyes adjusted to the harsh light. We were in a big building, like a shopping mall, with crowds bustling around us. No, not a mall. It was a 2-level airport concourse. So if you don't know what a concourse is, it's like the areas where you go to get on airplanes. With shops, lots of windows, and polished steel columns. Outside, it was dark, so I knew we must be in a different time zone. Announcements echoed over the intercom in a language that sounded like Arabic. Sadie spit sand out of her mouth. Yuck. Come on, Zia said. We can't stay here. I struggled to my feet. People were streaming past, some in Western clothes, some in robes and headscarves. A family arguing in German rushed by and almost ran over me with their suitcases. Then I turned and saw something I recognized. In the middle of the concourse stood a life-size replica of an ancient Egyptian boat made from glowing display cases, a sales counter for perfume and jewelry. This is the Cairo airport, I said. Yes, Zia said. Now, let's go. Why the rush? Can she follow us through the sand gate? Zia shook her head. An artifact overheats when it creates a gate. It requires a 12-hour cooldown before it can be used again. But we will still have to but we still have to worry about the airport security. Unless you'd like to meet the Egyptian police, you'll come with me now." She grabbed our arms and steered us through the crowd. We must have looked like beggars in our old-fashioned clothes, covered head to toe in sand. People gave us a wide berth, not birth like childbirth, just saying, like weird looks. People gave us wide berth, but nobody tried to stop us. "Why are we here?" Sadie demanded. "To see the ruins of Heliopolis." So Helio actually means sun in Greek, and polis, if you remember, is one of our vocab words from ancient Greece. So now we're seeing a correlation there. Greek and Egyptian go hand in hand. "Inside an airport?" Sadie asked. I remember something Dad had told me years ago, and my scalp tingled. "Sadie, the ruins are under us." I looked at Zia. "That's right, isn't it?" She nodded. "The ancient city was pillaged centuries ago. Some of its monuments were carted away, like Cleopatra's 2 needles. Most of its temples were broken down to make new buildings. What was left disappeared under Cairo's suburbs. The largest section is under this airport." "And how does that help us?" Sadie asked. Zia kicked open the maintenance door. On the other side was a broom closet. Zia muttered a command, "Sahad," and this image of the closet shimmered and disappeared, revealing a set of stone steps leading down. "Because not all Heliopolis is in ruins," Zia said. "Follow closely and touch nothing." The stairs must have led down about 7 million miles because we descended forever. The passage had been made for miniature people too. We had to crouch and crawl most of the way. And even so, I bonked my head on the ceiling a dozen times. The only light was from the ball of fire in Zia's palm, which made shadows dance across the walls. I'd been in places like this before. Tunnels inside pyramids, tombs my dad had excavated. If you don't know what excavated means, it's like discovered, like they're going on and every step of the way is something new. They're discovering something new. They excavated, they researched, they searched the whole place. But I never liked them. Millions of tons of rocks above me seemed to crush the air out of my lungs. Finally, we reached the bottom. The tunnel opened up, and Zia stopped abruptly. After my eyes adjusted, I saw why. We were standing on the edge of a chasm. A single wooden plank spanned the void. So void means nothing. There's nothing there. On the opposite ledge, two jackal-headed granite warriors flanked a doorway. Their spears crossed over the entrance. Sadie sighed. "Please, no more psychotic statues." "Do not joke," Zia warned. "This is an entrance to the first gnome, the oldest branch of the House of Life, headquarters for all magicians. My job was to bring you here safely, but I cannot help you cross. Each magician must unbar the path for herself, and the challenge is different for each supplicant. So for each person, it's a different way to cross." She looked at Sadie expectantly, which annoyed me. First Bast, now Zia, both of them treated Sadie like she should have some kind of superpowers. I mean, okay, so she'd been able to blast the library doors apart, but why didn't anyone look at me to do cool tricks? Because we're looking from Carter's point of view. Plus, I was still annoyed with Sadie for the comments she made at the museum in New York. How I had it so good traveling around the world with Dad. She had no idea how often I wanted to complain about the constant traveling, how many days I wished I didn't have to get on the plane and could just be a normal kid going to school and making friends. But I couldn't complain. You always have to look impeccable, Dad had told me. So impeccable means like perfect. You always have to look perfect. And he didn't just mean my clothes. He meant my attitude. With Mom gone, I was all he had. Dad needed to be strong. Most days, I didn't mind. I loved my dad. But it was also hard. We should be on page 149, in case some of you guys got lost. Sadie didn't understand that. She had it easy. And now she seemed to be getting all the attention as if she were the special one. It wasn't fair. Sometimes when you read, you gotta take a drink. Then I heard Dad's voice in my head. Fairness means everyone gets what they need. And the only way to get what you need is to make it happen yourself. Amen. I don't know what got into me, but I drew my sword and marched across the plank. It was like my legs were working by themselves, not waiting for my brain. Part of me thought, this is a really bad idea, but part of me answered, no, we do not fear this. And the voice didn't sound like mine. Carter, Sadie cried. I kept walking. I tried not to look down at the yawning void underneath my feet. So, remember when you're yawning, and your mouth opens up? It's it gets big. That's how it's describing this void. This chasm, this, pit of nothingness. And just a little plank. Let's see. But the sheer size of the chasm made me dizzy. I felt like one of those gyroscope toys, spinning and wobbling as I crossed the narrow plank. As I got closer to the opposite side, the doorway between the two statues began to glow, like a curtain of red light. I took a deep breath. Maybe the red light was a portal, like a gate of sand. If I just charged through fast enough. Then the first dagger shot out of the tunnel. My sword was in motion before I realized it. The dagger should have impaled me in the chest, so it should have gone through the chest. But somehow I deflected it with my blade and sent it sailing into the abyss. 2 more daggers shot out of the tunnel. I never had the best reflexes, but now they sped up. I ducked one dagger and hooked the other with the curved blade of my sword, turned to the dagger and flung it back into the tunnel. How the heck did I do that? I advanced to the end of the plank and slashed through the red light which flickered and died. Sorry, trying to get comfortable. I waited for the statues to come alive, but nothing happened. The only sound was a dagger clattering against the rocks in the chasm far below. The doorway began to glow again. The red light coalesced into a strange form, a 5-foot-tall bird with a man's head. I raised my sword, but Zia yelled, "Carter, no!" The bird creature folded his wings. His eyes, lined with coal, narrowed as they studied me. A black ornamental wig glistened on his head, and his face was etched with wrinkles. One of the fake braided pharaoh beards. So, yeah, they would have fake beards, the pharaohs would. Fake beards was stuck on his chin like a backward ponytail. He didn't look hostile, except for the red flickering light all around him. And the fact that from the neck down, he was the world's largest killer turkey. Then, a chilling thought occurred to me. This was a bird with a human head, the same form I'd imagined taking when I slept in Amos's house, when my soul left my body and flew to Phoenix. I had no idea what that meant, but it scared me. The bird creature scratched at the stone floor. Then, unexpectedly, he said, Pari Niswa Nafir. He told me, or at least that's what it sounded like. Zia gasped. She and Sadie were standing behind me now, their faces pale. Apparently, they'd managed to cross the chasm without my noticing. I mean, if some crazy creature was in front of me, I'd be staring at that thing too. I wouldn't be busy if it was behind me. Finally, Zia seemed to collect herself. She bowed to the bird creature. Sadie followed her example. The creature winked at me, but if we just share a joke. Then he vanished. The red light faded. The statues retracted their arms, uncrossing their spears from the entrance. So obviously they had to do something right. Maybe? That's it? I asked. What did the turkey say? Zia looked at me with something like fear. That was not a turkey, Carter. That was a ba. So, remember, we were just talking about ba and ka in our other social studies video, and we will be getting to that too. I heard my dad use that word before, but I couldn't place it. Another monster? A human soul. So remember, ba is the soul and ka is the body. So body and soul go together. In this case, a spirit of the dead, a magician from ancient times, come back to serve as a guardian. They watch the entrances of the house. She studied my face as if I just developed some terrible rash. What? I demanded. Why are you looking at me that way? Nothing, she said. We must hurry. She squeezed by me on the ledge and disappeared into the tunnel. Sadie was staring at me too. All right, I said. What did the bird guy say? You understood it? She nodded uneasily. He mistook you for someone else. He must have bad eyesight. Because he said, go forth, good king. So that must raise a lot of questions. The fact that this spirit came in and he said, go forth, good king. Carter's not a king. He is a boy. So let's keep reading and we'll see what's going on. I was in a daze after that. We passed through the tunnel and entered a vast underground city of halls and chambers. But I only remember bits and pieces of it. The ceiling soared to 20 to 30 feet, so it didn't feel like we were underground. Every chamber was lined with massive stone columns, like the ones I'd seen in Egyptian ruins. But these were in perfect condition, brightly painted to resemble palm trees, with carved green fronds at the top. So I felt like I was walking through a petrified rainforest. Fires burned in copper braziers. They didn't seem to make any smoke, but the air smelled good, like a marketplace for spices, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, and others I couldn't identify. The city smelled like Zia. I realized that this was her home. So the fact that he knows what Zia smells like, to me that's a little creepy. But cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, that reminds me of Christmas. We saw a few other people, mostly older men and women. Some wore linen robes, some modern clothes. One guy in a business suit walked past with a black leopard on a leash, as if that were completely normal. Another guy barked orders to a small army of brooms, mops, and buckets that were scuttling around, cleaning up the city. Like that cartoon, Sadie said, where Mickey Mouse tries to do magic and the brooms keep splitting and toting water. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Zia said. You do know that was based on an Egyptian story, don't you? Sadie just stared back. I knew how she felt. It was too much to process. So I'm anxious to see how that relates to Egyptian. This might be one of the things that might not be accurate because I've heard rumors that it was based on like Merlin, but we will see. We walked through the hall of jackal-headed statues, and I could swear their eyes watched as we passed. A few minutes later, Zia led us through an open-air market, if you can call anything open air underground, with dozens of stalls selling weird items like boomerang wands, animated clay dolls, parrots, cobras, papyrus scrolls, and hundreds of different glittering amulets. Next, we crossed a path of stone over a dark river teeming with fish. So teeming means like there's a lot of them. I thought they were perch until I saw their vicious teeth. So fish with teeth. Are those piranhas? I asked. Tiger fish from the Nile, Zia said. Like piranhas, except they can weigh up to 16 pounds. That's a lot. That weighs as much as my dog, and he's not the biggest dog, but I mean, my dog is he's hefty for a little dog, so I can't imagine having a huge fish with teeth. I watched my step more closely after that. We turned a corner and passed an ornate building carved out of black rock. Seated pharaohs were chiseled into the walls, and the doorway was shaped like a coiled serpent or a coiled snake. What's in there? Sadie asked. We peeked inside and saw rows of children, maybe 24 in all, about 6 to 10 years old or so, sitting cross-legged on cushions. They were hunched over brass bowls, peering intently into some sort of liquid and speaking under their breath. At first, I thought it was a classroom, but there seemed to be no sign of a teacher, and the chamber was lit only with a few candles. Judging by the number of empty seats, the room was meant to hold twice as many kids. Our initiates, Zia said, learning to scry. The first gnome must keep in contact with our brethren all over the world. We use our youngest as operators, I suppose you would say. So you've got bases like this all over the world? Most are much smaller, but yes. I remember what Amos told us about the gnomes. Egypt is the first gnome. New York is the 21st. What's the last one? The 360th? That would be Antarctica, Zia said. A punishment assignment. Nothing there but a couple of cold magicians and some magic penguins. Magic penguins? Don't ask. Sadie pointed to the children inside. How does it work? They see images in the water? It's oil, Zia said. But yes. So few, Sadie said. Are these the only initiates you in the whole city? In the whole world, Zia corrected. There were more before. She stopped herself. Before what? I asked. Nothing, Zia said darkly. Initiates do our scrying because young minds are the most receptive. So young minds tend to process and learn more as they go. Magicians begin training no later than the age of 10, with a few dangerous exceptions. You mean us? I said. She glanced at me apprehensively, and I knew she was still thinking about what the bird spirit had called me, a good king. It seemed so unreal, like our family name in that Blood of the Pharaoh's scroll. How could I be related to some ancient kings? And even if I was, I certainly wasn't a king. I had no kingdom. I didn't even have my single suitcase anymore. They'll be waiting for you, Zia said. Come along. We walked so far, my feet began to ache. Finally, we arrived at the crossroads. On the right was a massive set of bronze doors with fires blazing on either side. On the left, a 20-foot tall sphinx carved into the wall. A doorway nestled between its paws, like it was bricked in and covered in cobwebs. That looks like the Sphinx at Giza, I said. That's because we're directly under the real Sphinx, Zia said. The tunnel leads straight up to it. Or it used to before it was sealed. But I did some quick calculations in my head. The Sphinx is like 20 miles from the Cairo airport, roughly. No way we walked that far. Zia actually smiled, and I couldn't help notice how pretty her eyes were. Oh boy. Distant changes in magic places, Carter. Oh, changes in magic places, Carter. Surely you've learned that by now. Sadie cleared her throat. So why is the tunnel closed then? The Sphinx was too popular with archaeologists, Zia said. They kept digging around. Finally, in the 1980s, they discovered the first part of the tunnel under the Sphinx. Dad told me about that, I said. But he said the tunnel was a dead end. It was when we got through with it. We couldn't let the archaeologists know how much they're missing. Egypt's leading archaeologists recently speculated that they've only discovered 30% of the ancient ruins in Egypt. In truth, they've only discovered 1/10, so 10%. And not even the interesting 10th. What about King Tut's tomb? I protested. That boy king? Zia rolled her eyes. Boring. You should see some of the good tombs. I felt a little hurt. My dad had named me after Howard Carter, the guy who discovered King Tut's tomb. So I always felt a personal attachment to it. If that wasn't a good tomb, I wondered what was. Zia turned to face the bronze doors. This is the Hall of Ages. She placed her palm against the seal, which bore the symbol for the House of Life. That's the symbol. If you guys don't remember, that's what it looks like. It's basically a box with an ankh. The hieroglyphs began to glow, and the door swung open. Zia turned to us, her expression deadly serious. You are about to meet Chief Lecter. Behave yourselves unless you wish to be turned into insects. So basically, we're about to meet a really, really important person. We don't know how important this person is yet, but that's for you guys to read in chapter 14. So this is a very interesting chapter. He was called a king, which, what is that about? Speculate what you think is going to happen. Again, why he was able to manage to cross. Just keep on reading. Again, this chapter 14 is in the description. Make sure when you are doing these chapters, you're going ahead and answering these questions. Okay? Answer the questions, because that's what I'm going to be looking for. We're going to be talking about the actual mummification process in our next social studies video. So make sure you're looking for that. See you later.